Hello, today I am going to create a program that solves the Who's on First module from the game Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. This module was inspired after the skit of the same name created by Abbott and Costello, and you can see why in a minute. I recommend looking at the routine first just to give context, and it's just funny. Looking at the module, we see 6 buttons that have random words on them and a display at the top. The manual tells us to look at the word in the display and find the reference word given the I. Since our display says your, our reference word is located in the middle right, which is UHHH. Now that we have our reference word, we can look at part 2 of the manual where we see all of the reference words in different orders. We must use the row with our reference word, find the first word in the list that appears on the module, and click on it. In this case, the first word we see is left. This is a multiple stage module, meaning that we have to do the same thing 2 more times in order to defuse the module. I will go at the same pace for this module and speed up for the rest of them. Now our display says display. Part 1 says we have to look at the bottom right, which has the word yes. The first word that we see that appears on the BOM is UHHH. The display says there with the reference word being in the bottom right, which is ahoy. Since that is the first word in the list, that is the word we click. Skip ahead if you want to get to the coding part of the video. I will go through the rest of these examples as quickly as possible just for the sake of time. Display is C with the reference being yes. We click OK. Display is lead with the reference being middle. We click what? Display is no with the reference being like. We click U re. Display is OK with the reference being U. We click UR. Display is led with the reference being done. We click sure. Display is there with the reference being U. We click ahoy. Display is C with the reference being UR. We click done. Display is lead with the reference being like. We click U. Display is display with the reference being OK. We click yes. Display is lead with the reference being UR. We click done. Display is display with the reference being first. We click middle. Display is C with the reference being nothing. We click yes. Yahoo! Now that we're finally done with the explanation, we can start the GUI. I was stuck between 2 ways of doing this. I initially thought of just asking the user for the display, having them press submit, then ask for the reference word, and finally give them the entire list of words in order and have them click on the first one that appears. The pro of doing this is that the user doesn't have to give all the words that appear on the buttons. The con of this is the user having to look through all of the words that appear in the tiny box that will show the answer, which can lead to many people skipping / missing words, causing them to strike. The other way to create the GUI, which I decided to go with, is to make the user give the display along with all 6 buttons using combo boxes. Although this may be tedious and hectic with how many words there are in each combo box, this way would be much better since I would already know the location of the reference word itself, and which word the user has to click. Meaning they won't be confused on which word to click since I can tell them. I had to make sure the user didn't enter the same word twice for any of the buttons, but other than that, there wasn't a lot of foolproofing needed done. The only thing left to do with the GUI was to give the standard functions, such as striking, going back to the module selection form, asking the user if they are sure they want to close the program, etc. For the solving itself, the first thing I did was figure out which word was the reference word by using a switch statement. I then needed to make a list of all the words in order depending on the reference word. I decided to use an array for each list and sort the words manually based on the reference word, which wasn't fun to do. Once I found the right order of words, I then found the index of each word on the buttons and showed the user the one that appeared first. Let's see a demonstration.
It's me, Mario!
Thank you for watching the video.